Okay, so this is the house that we made, which is the simple house without the structure in it. And if you remember last week, we made a structure by linking this house into another file. We can now take that file and link that backwards into the house again. So we actually have the opportunity to link it in both directions. So if I wanted the structure to show in this house that we've made in the other file, I do the same thing again. I go to Insert, Link Revit, and I find the structure file, which is Hudson House 1I structure, origin to origin, and press Open. And you can see that the structure pops in to the architectural file in the correct position, with all the columns and so on are in there. It also turns up in the floor plans, but it's not editable because it's a linked file. You can see that if I try and select it, it actually selects the entire thing rather than one element to it. Okay, so that's just simply using linking files to link back and forth. So you can either link the architectural model into the structural model, or you can link the structural model back into the architectural model. Whatever makes sense to how you want to display your element or how you want to work on it. The nice thing about this is that somebody can be working on the architectural model and somebody else could be working on the structural model, and any changes that you make will update, so you can always see what the other person is up to. It doesn't come at the same moment, but every time you reload the link, it will reload with all the changes in it. So you can just reload it by going into manage links and then selecting it and just press reload, and that will reload the link into the project. So then you can keep track of what the other person is doing. So that's one way of of working across in a more complex way with other team members. So then we have something like this, and what we want to do now is to make that kind of pretty exploded isometric that we had in the original plan. And we don't want to start moving our elements around. We want to just make a drawing that's specific for the exploded isometric drawing. So what I'm going to do is, we're in the 3D view, you can see over here. I'm going to right click on this and I'm just going to duplicate the view. So I'm just going to make a copy of the same view. And you can see it makes this one called 3D copy 1. So then if I right click on that and rename it, I'm just going to call this one exploded isometric. Like that. And then we can change, let's say we want to change the scale. We can turn it up to 1:50, for example. We could change the detail level to fine. We could, play with the shading and so on, and turn on the shadows and all that kind of stuff, or whatever you want to do. But it's independent to the initial 3D view that sits over here and is not changed. So the exploded isometric view and the other view, they have separate qualities now. So once we've done that, maybe we want to show, for example, how this wall is composed, what it's composed of. If I select the wall like this, I can see that it's a basic wall with a kind of an exterior brick layer. It's got insulation, and then it has a kind of a concrete inner layer. In Revit, naturally, it just shows the wall as one thing. But we can explode all the parts out. So once we selected it, we get this tiny, tiny little, well, not this one yet, but this button here, which is called Create Parts. And what that does is it splits the elements that you have into the individual layers. So I can select Create Parts, and you can see that the highlight now, if you can see it on the screen there, you can't really see it very well, but it's actually highlighting the individual elements within the wall, and that means that they're actually separately editable. Okay? Everybody with me? Yeah. So if they're separately editable and I deselect them, you can see that actually what's happened is it's taken, I can go in here and I can roll across the wall, and it's taking each individual element separately. It's also removed the joint at the end here, or it's showing us the layers in the wall here. This is also a view setting, so I could change this from, at the moment it's set to show parts. If I change this back to show original, it just shows the wall as a single wall again. Okay, so over here in the property dialog, if I change it from show original to show parts, we can show the individual parts in it. But once we've done that, I can select this part here, for example, and I press this tiny little button up here, which is called Displace Elements. So I select that. Oh shit, need to do that again. Displace Elements, and then we get these arrow diagrams. I can move the wall out, so now it's just an insulation layer there. I can select the insulation layer and move that out, and then I can select the inner wall and do it again and move that out. Once I've done that, I can select it again. I can actually select this path button, which gives us an automatic dotted line back to where the element is supposed to be if we choose the right edges here. Yeah? Well, I'll do it again. I'll do it on the roof. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'm going to do the structure. So I'm going to select the structure. I'm going to select Displace Elements. And I'm just going to move the structure up out of the view like that. With the roof, sometimes complex roofs don't allow you to split it into parts. It depends on how complex the roof is, but in this case it's not allowing us to split it into parts. But we can still use the Displace Element tool and move the roof up like this. And once again we can use the Path tool just to show where it's supposed to be in the project. Now, I haven't moved anything. If I go back to the original 3D view here, everything's still sitting in place. All that's happening is that I'm changing the display of this individual drawing within the project. So let's just do it one more time. I'm going to select the floor here, and I'm going to split that into parts. So press this button, Create Parts. Once I've created the parts, I'm going to select the top part, press Displace Elements, and I'm going to move it up. And then we have an insulation layer for some reason. Let's displace that and move it up. And then we have the plasterboard layer on the ceiling, which we can also just move up. But you can see that very quickly it creates a kind of a complex drawing that describes the entire construction of the house without really too much work. So I want everybody to produce one of these for the final exam, okay? I'm going to pause that now.